Good afternoon, Toastmasters and guests.
Good afternoon.
Raise your hand if you've heard of gaslighting, if you know what gaslighting means. I don't mean lighting a gas stove. No, gaslighting is a form of manipulation where you emotionally persuade somebody to doubt their own credibility or their sanity. Before I discuss this topic, I have a story to demonstrate it. Try to identify the emotional manipulation in this story. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So now this story is on a beach. To set the mood, I have a little prop with me. So if you'll just bear with me, I'll start this prop. And the story goes like this. Revant was a man of harmony. He loved looking for it in nature. Sitting on his towel under his umbrella with his shades on, he let his ears go on an adventure. The rhythmic rise, fall, and retreat of the water filled him with joy. He especially loved the little cries of protest of every wave as it crested, only to fall crashing back down on the ground. To him, that reinforced that everything has its place, and any deviation will be met with swift and crushing resistance. Water's place was on the ground, and gravity put it there. The slow percussion of the water, the mild jibber-jabber of the people around him, the sound of the seagulls, all fell into harmony, like a subtle orchestra. But there was one sound out of place. It was Shakti, a few feet away, digging in the sand. That was out of tune. He thought, that will not do. That will not do at all. Meanwhile, Shakti needed to calm down. That's what her doctor had told her. Go to the beach, he said. Relax. Play with the sand. Let the cool breeze lull you. She put her hand in the sand, picked up a bit, and put it in the wet bucket next to her, all the while concentrated on the sculpture in front of her. In front of her was a sand sculpture, life-sized, of a human body. It was shaped perfectly. Everything, the anatomy and the proportions were all correct. It was a marvelous piece. Not good enough, she thought. She broke the arm of the sculpture and started remaking it. The head and the torso, the arms and the legs, they are all wrong. They need to be perfect. It's not good enough. And she started working it. Meanwhile, Revant had got up. Taking a deep breath, he turned his head to her. His wife was clearly agitated. Her body language was very disturbed, and she looked like she was having a bad time. Taking a deep breath, he walked towards her. Everything in its place, he thought. Shakti dear, she started. Oh, I didn't mean to surprise you. Is everything okay? That's a beautiful drawing you've made. It's not a drawing, it's a sculpture of a human body. Don't correct me, dear. Isn't a sculpture just like a drawing in 3 dimensions? Isn't it? And listen, the doctor told you to relax. Why are you doing this? I find it relaxing. That's why I'm making the sculpture, she said. You don't look relaxed. You look agitated. And for what? For sand? The sand that will get washed away by the ocean, and you'll have nothing to show for it. And then you will feel bad and you'll come and make me feel bad also. There's no point doing this, he said very confidently and soothingly to her. I guess, she said. Interrupting her, he said, you should go back to the hotel room. Go sleep for a few hours. You'll feel better. And I'll feel better also. Go. Maybe he's right, she thought. Oh God, what am I doing? She said to him, you're right, Revant. Maybe I should go. I'll go right now. Without even looking at it again, without looking at the sculpture again, she got up and left. Revant followed with his eyes her leaving and waited. Then looking down at the sculpture, he stepped in it. Once in the stomach, once in the head. Satisfied now, he went back to his towel, put on his shades and sat down. Everything in its place, he said, and everything under me. So that was the story. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Yes. Were you able to see the emotional manipulation in it? Now, in this story, Revant and Shakti are extreme examples. Revant clearly thinks he owns Shakti and he dominates her, doesn't care about how she feels. But in real life, gaslighting doesn't have to be between these two extremes. It can be between any of us as well. Young boys are especially notorious of doing this, emotionally abusing their girlfriends into behaving a certain way. And yes, it can be the opposite way around as well. The problem with gaslighting is, until we know what it is very difficult to notice. But when you notice, you find how bad it is. Now, the term gaslighting comes from a 19th century play where a man tampers with a gaslight in his house so that it flickers every few moments. Every few minutes, it will flicker once. When his wife notices it, she brings it to his attention and he said she's imagining it. When it happens again and again and she keeps telling him, he starts blaming her. You're doing this for attention. Until she reaches a point where she thinks she's going mad. Gaslighting is a dominance tactic and it is unfortunately very common. It ruins young relationships, young marriages, and you can't notice it until you know what it is. Now, because I have told you, my hope is that you'll be able to identify these cases if they happen in your life and you'll be able to rectify them yourself. If you have any questions about gaslighting, I will be available after the meeting to talk to you about it. But for now, thank you for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it.